Hi, my name is Noor Saeed, and today I'm going to be talking about the Foxconn suicides, which relate to exploited human labor in China. So, just a little bit of background with globalization increasing as societies have become more interconnected, Western transnational corporations have begun to exploit cheap labor forces in countries that employ unsuitable working conditions. And these abused labor facilities in foreign countries have become known as sweatshops. And in 2010, Foxconn, a Chinese company, drew international attention as being a supplier to Apple, the company that produces iPhones. And in the article, A Case Study of the Foxconn Suicides by Lie Goi, she describes how terrible working conditions in Foxconn facilities caused a total of 14 suicides to occur from July 2009 to August 2010. Apple, amongst many other technology brands, faced severe backlash in response to being connected with such horrendous events. And instead of producing products within countries that treat workers fairly and just, Apple chose to outsource their production lines into Foxconn factories that treated workers so poorly that they actually decided to end their own lives. And utilizing this information from the article and information from Brian Merchant's article named "Life and Death in Apple's Forbidden City," I formulated a thesis which analyzes the effects of globalization, political organization, and structural violence, all through an anthropological lens, in order to determine how such a situation arose and why there still remains incidences of mistreatment in China towards their workers. So, first, focusing on globalization. In 2010, China exported products worth nearly $284 billion to the United States alone. The United States ranked first as China's greatest export partner. And according to Wealth and Viviano in Globalization and Culture, globalization can be defined as the contemporary widening scale of cross cultural interactions owing to the rapid movement of money, peoples, goods, images, and ideas within nations and across national borders. Particularly in China, there exists a rapid movement of capital and products coming out of the country, as can be seen by the extreme value of the Chinese exports. And China is able to offer cheap products to Western transnational corporations due to their cheap labor force coming out of the sweatshops, which only increases their production values. And in the case of Foxconn, iPhones were able to be mass produced in China through direct monetary supply from Apple. In other words, a California company was supplying a Chinese company to produce their products in order to take advantage of cheap production value. And due to globalization, there is this connection between China and the US, as the cultural standards in China are far different than the standards employed by the US, and allows China to keep their production costs low. Through Merchant's firsthand interviews with Foxconn employees, workers noted that they were discouraged from taking bathroom breaks, severely punished if they were not able to meet their daily production quota, and were provided with a housing situation where an average of 8 to 12 people were assigned to one dormitory bedroom. And unfortunately, with such poor working environments, it caused multiple Foxconn employees to commit suicide, and is what caused these Chinese sweatshops to receive international attention. Globalization attributes to how sweatshops were able to become present in China, and is a reason why such terrible conditions are occurring today. And another major prevalence factor is political organization. Um, exists a substantial connection between the existing culture and China's political organization, and as depicted in Sweetness and Power by Sidney Mintz, political organization can alter a society's culture through regulation and legislation that reflect the societal structure that the leaders chose to operate under. And in China, the political organization is communism. Chinese communism determines class structure, which allows select citizens to live wealthy lives, while the majority of the population will have continuous financial structure or financial struggles. The working conditions deployed by Foxconn are examples of the anthropological effects of the Chinese political organization of communism. Foxconn is able to mistreat employees since Chinese citizens have dismal opportunity to acquire new career paths or establish better lives for themselves. Chinese communism has allowed sweatshop conditions to arise in companies such as Foxconn, since no freedom is allowed to exist within the nation's class structure. Through an anthropological perspective, the Chinese working culture has been severely impacted by the communist political organization, and continues to let Chinese citizens suffer, while wealthy companies such as Foxconn are able to reap the rewards through the efforts of their deprived citizens. And in relation to Chinese to China's communist political organization, structural violence continues to allow Foxconn sweatshops to operate as well. Structural violence are hardships brought about through consequences, direct or indirect, of human agencies. A prime agency that is causing structural violence in China is classism, which is reinforced by the Communist state of China. Classism allows lower classes to be discriminated against and has forced lower class workers to endure mistreatment in their fields of work. Chinese workers were reported to move from rural areas to work at Foxconn, a known Western transnational corporation, in hopes that Foxconn would allow for a better life for these lower class citizens. Regrettably, Foxconn offered few job advancements for their employees and subjected them to harsh, deplorable working conditions. Due to the structural violence present in China, Foxconn could utilize lower class citizens to increase productivity in their sweatshops and increase their overall exportation trade value. And continuing to my conclusion, there are multiple varying factors that has allowed China and continues to allow companies in China, such as Foxconn, to take advantage of their workers and subject sweatshop conditions in their production lines. The Chinese culture has been reformed due to the factors of globalization, political structure, and structural violence becoming increasingly more prevalent and pervasive, but the working conditions that the Chinese people are continuously subjected to are taking a great toll on their mental health, which resulted in the increased number of suicides within Chinese industries. Without future interjection, China will continue to be the sweatshop of the world, and Chinese persons will be forced to endure only but more suffering. And these are my citations, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.